Hey, 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 hey. Oh, okay. Well, hopefully nobody is watching it, but basically, I'm just doing a test today to see if I can do this streaming thing from my computer to Instagram because it always seems like so many people tune in through Instagram. Yeah, we're just kind of troubleshooting what is going on, and I'm going to wait and see if anybody joins, and if basically we are going to make a couple of crypto waves today, and I have a new method for doing so. So this is just super casual. If anyone happens to be around, come and join in. But again, I just want to see if it is coming through on Instagram. So you can join me if you happen to be around. I'm not monitoring Instagram at all. So I only assume that this is working. So if you want to talk to me, come in my Twitch chat, twitch.tv/Ilbc. And you can talk to me there. You can talk to me in Discord and EDMP, which we are sitting in, as you can see underneath right now. So this is another episode of Crypto Waves, and probably not going to be super long because I have been struggling with some tech a lot tonight. So I'm probably going to do another one later. But we are going to do something that I am long overdue to show you a couple of things. The original Crypto Waves project, for those of you who never watched it or tuned in or have no idea what I'm talking about, turned cryptocurrency graphs into sound waves and lyrics. So I started learning about crypto. I was looking at, the old tradingview.com, which is like just a place where you can look at things, different charts. And I forgot it doesn't really work on this computer, but essentially you can see lines. And I thought, wow, these look like sound waves. How cool would that be to make this chart into a sound wave and see what happens? And it kind of turned into lyrics and it blossomed from there. But I'm going to show you a little bit about how I made the original crypto waves and then this new method that I have, which is kind of what's been giving me a little bit of struggle because it is in beta. But I'm also using a lot of things in beta. So this is why I've had to restart a couple times. If you're somebody who's watching for the third time, thank you. But basically, while I kind of scrabble around, maybe I should show you a little bit about my newest Cryptowaves NFTs. So yeah, on Instagram, if you're watching on your phone, you probably cannot see very much at all, but there's a few interactive little NFTs sitting at the bottom of the screen here, and they are on Foundation, Catalog, and OpenSea, and they are all related to the Cryptowaves project. So the one on the bottom right is a custom currency NFT. There's only a few of these available, and actually what I'm going to work on today is one of those NFTs sold to my awesome collector and now friend, Tyler IRL. So Tyler bought this custom currency thing, which allows you to tell me which cryptocurrency symbol that you would like me to turn into a crypto wave. And he asked me to do CHAINLINK, which is going to be the topic of this week's episode. But let me just explain to you what the other ones are. So let's look at those up close, actually. So OpenSea, let's go here. This is where I started out my NFT journey. OpenSea, some call it the eBay of NFTs because pretty much anyone can get on there. It's not the best place for art collectors, right? If you're looking for fancy art collectors and you don't go to eBay, right? So that's the drawback. Anyone can get on here, but also, not that many people come to buy. But I have a lot of different NFTs from the Cryptowaves project here. So you can see there's like the orphan. There is, let me just bring this in so it's on screen. There are different chapters of the story. There are unreleased animations. There is one where you can actually buy the original journal that I wrote the entire project in. So it comes with physical attributes. There are various ones. Anyways, this is my very first foray into NFTs. After that, I actually got onboarded to Catalog Works, which is a really awesome audio-only NFT site. And as far as I know, it's the coolest thing. So we're not going to log in right now, but you can see that you may buy the original editions of these songs. And the thing about the Cryptowaves project is I designed it so that you can only listen to the tracks in the project on Audius. Only on Audius. So if you are the owner of one of these NFTs, you have the original high quality song. You cannot buy it anywhere else. So I did really try to make this special and exclusive. So if you want to hear some of the Cryptowave stuff, actually only 2 of the tracks have been released so far. Black Swan and Genesis Block. And Genesis Block is the one that's displayed on the bottom here. That's the one that you can buy. So that one is looking for a home. Let's maybe check out. I just realized that my desktop audio is probably not going to come out of here. So let me just put out of here. How about this? And let's check out Genesis Block. Okay, so anyways, I'm having audio problems on my side, but that's a little bit of Genesis Block. That was my second NFT. And then the one that you are looking at on the bottom left is actually the newest one I made, and it is actually the only existing copy of the 4K video for Black Swan, which I just released. It had a pretty nice premiere on Rolling Stone, and they talked a little bit about the project. So I'm not going to spend too much time on going over the original project because I've already done a lot of streams on that before. So if you're just like tuning in on Instagram and you're like, what the hell is this? You can read the premiere and it's got a link to the video. You can also go to my website and there's a whole Cryptowaves section because there's been a lot of stuff going on. So what we're going to do is just to get back to the topic of today's broadcast, we are going to talk about CHAINLINK a little bit. And then I'm going to show you the old and the new way of making Cryptowaves, which I think is more what people would be interested in. So let's talk about CHAINLINK. CHAINLINK is a token, and you can buy it, you can sell it. I think that a common misconception that people have about crypto, if they don't know about crypto, is this is all money, this is just money. It's not all just money. It represents protocols, it represents technologies, and CHAINLINK is what they call a decentralized oracle. So it's actually a technology that a lot of other protocols use. Because when you have something on the blockchain, I'm not going to even get crazy and explain how the blockchain works today. Let's just assume that anybody who happens to be watching knows what the blockchain is. So I have the Wikipedia definition open just to make sure I explain it the best I can. But essentially, if you are inside the blockchain in your smart contract, you have a bunch of lines of code, but you may need information from the real world in real time that is happening in order to make that contract work. For instance, the most common example that people use is, okay, if the weather is above 80 degrees Fahrenheit, transfer X amount of money to this person. So in order to execute a contract like that, you would have to make sure that your contract had a way of checking what the weather is, but you can't just link it to Google, right? Because then it becomes a centralized, compromisable source. Somebody could kind of go in there and hack whatever your source is and say, oh, the weather is above 80 degrees every day. And all of a sudden your contract is transferring money. So these oracles, what is an oracle in mythology? It is a source of information that is respected as truth within the mythological community, right? So that's what CHAINLINK is. It's an information source link that is trusted. So you know that when you use CHAINLINK, that you are getting the correct weather because you cannot tamper with this data. So that's why we like it. I am definitely on board with CHAINLINK. I really enjoy it as well. And so Tyler, who got my NFT, came and asked me to make a CHAINLINK song. And this has been an interesting one because not only does he want me to make a CHAINLINK song, he would like me to make a cover of one of his favorite video game songs. And I don't know the name of the game itself, but the song is called Euthanasia Roller Coaster. So let me just close everything and open up Ableton here, and we can kind of mess around for a bit. And sorry, I only have one screen, so everything's a little bit messy. So I'm going to go off chat for a bit, but I will, you know what? I'm going to put my Discord just in the corner. So if anybody has questions while I'm talking, let me go make sure that I can see them. Cool. Truth or Dare in Music, what is up? Thank you for being in the chat room. Thanks to anyone else who's here. Say hello. I opened up the little window, so I should be good to see you. So, okay, let us go over into the DAW. And yep, it's working. It's been a little buggy, so we're going to make this chat open here. And we are going to go back into the chat, and here we go. Okay, so hey, Nathaniel Wyvern, it's good to see you. We are talking today for those who want to know. Let me just make sure that I can send sound out of my Ableton. Perfect. It is working. It should be working. Please let me know, obviously, if you don't hear anything, but I think this is all good. So what you're actually looking at in the bottom is this really fun beta Max for Live device. Max for Live is Max, which is code, which is embedded inside Ableton Live, and people can make their own plugins. So before I explain this further, this is just a teaser. Just want to give shouts out to Ben Cantil, aka Encanti, who made this plugin for me after I told him I wanted a better way to do Cryptowaves. So the original Cryptowaves, okay, they basically involved pictures and picture cleanup. So if I open up Serum, I'm not going to show you, the exact thing. Again, we're going to skip ahead to the new waveform. But you can actually see where I imported just images of charts from Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, etc. And so you can see what you get here. You actually get the chart, but the funny thing is it's horizontal, right? It's a lying down graph. So it's not exactly what I was looking for. I still thought it was a really cool idea and I made it work and whatever. But basically, it just ends up it's cool. And I mean, it probably doesn't really matter because nobody is listening to my song telling me they can't hear the chart. And it does have a dynamic. It does move up and down in the same way. But what I actually wanted, right, was I wanted the waveform left to right, just like the crypto chart. I didn't want it to be turned on its side. I wanted the highest point to be the top of the waveform. So this was not really working for me. But let's, just for fun, let's look at a couple of presets that I made for, where did I put them? Good Lord. Do I not even have them? Interesting. Okay, never mind. We're not going to do that. If you want to hear more about what the original Cryptowaves sound like, you're just going to have to go listen on Audius or buy the NFT. So we're going to leave this behind and we're just going to go fresh. So here's the cool thing. This little Cryptomatic, and I had to do it a few times because I was having a bit of trouble. So what I'm going to say about this is it depends. Yeah, Darren, I don't know. I think for some reason it's not installed anymore. It's weird. Some things are a little bit freaky with my computer right now, but they're just not even. Oh, wait. Did they get moved? I did a bunch of formatting and stuff, so there's a lot of strange subfolders. There we go. Okay, so this isn't all of them, but they somehow got moved into user. So here's... So, you know, essentially the way that I made every Cryptowaves patch, and kind of what we're going to do now, is use the original waveforms, made wavetables out of them. And for those of you who are not synth savvy, wavetables are kind of like stop motion animations. They are dividing your waveform into different frames and moving between these different frames to get this movement, right? That's the basis of wavetable synthesis. So taking advantage of stacking multiple voices to make the sound thicker, lots and lots of effects processing. And for these are all synth presets. So I wanted to do everything inside the box. So all the effects are inside Serum. And that's not what we're going to do today. We're going to just see how far we can push CHAINLINK and kind of go how that goes. But after this, we have lots of processing and lots of different ways, because let's face it, cryptocurrency graphs and charts, they're lines, and they kind of sound like TV static when you don't do anything to them. So again, if I just go back to the wavetable itself, let's just go initialize, then it's not very nice, especially if you don't move the wavetable, because that's a thing. Right now you're listening to this, so it sounds like crap, right? If I move it through the wavetable, it's still crap, but you can see it's like it at least has some deviations as it moves through the crap. The crap is different. So obviously, to make better sounding things, you need to do a lot of processing and maybe even use different synths, because look, yes, all synths fundamentally do similar things, but they use different types of synthesis. They have different effects, they have different arrangements, and there's all kinds of things that will cause different synths to sound a certain way when used by the typical user, right? So even the original Cryptowaves, they were first made in Serum, and that's because Serum and Wavetable, which is the built-in Wavetable synth in Ableton, those are the only two that allow you to drag an image into it right into this. So that's why I have to start with Serum. Now, the interesting thing is that now with this Crypto Wave Maker, I can just import it as a line. However, it's not very interesting, and you'll see what we got to do to make it a little better. So Cryptomatic Wave Maker, it's got instructions right in it. And again, this is in beta. I don't mind sharing this with people on a ask basis, you know, here and there. But obviously it's Ben's baby. And again, I'm sort of testing it out for him. But what he did was save an Excel file, right? And then you change it to a text file, then you read it, and then you can do some tweaking to sort of manipulate which line of data you start from. So that's just to get rid of like header rows. It's kind of like sorting an Excel spreadsheet, because that's literally what it is, an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to just show you how I loaded this. This is actually a chart from Coinbase. And it's not as recent as I would like, but I found out that depending on how you export the CSV, it may be easier or harder to work. So we're just going to use this one because it works. I've changed it to text. I put it in, and it takes a little bit of spinning wheel of death. Hopefully it doesn't do this, because it has crashed. Again, this is in beta, so it's a little, yes, beach ball of doom. And then you can hit go and it draws it once you've offset. So I already was messing around with this before, just tweaking, you know, I got rid of the title row and everything. And then it draws. This is the waveform of CHAINLINK from basically, I think at the time it was July. So January to July. And then you just click the right button, and we're going to call this link master. Okay. And you can save it as an AIFF file. You can save it as a WAV file, right? I'm going to just, let's leave it as an AIFF. Doesn't really matter. Cool. And it's buggy anyways, so I'm just like, don't touch it. All right. So now in Serum, I'm going to just do the old initialize preset. And now we can actually just drag and drop wherever I put that thing. Euthanasia, think it's in my downloads folder. Yeah. So now we can put this link master. Import normal. And so now you can see a couple things. I'm going to go back to 2D view. So this is actually a pretty accurate redrawing of the form, and this is exactly what I want. The higher parts of the waveform are higher parts, right? But as you can see, it's a little weird. It's kind of offset. And if I go into 3D view, there's only one frame. So guess what it's going to sound like? Nintendo. Right? It's not very nice, because the thing with wavetable synthesis is, again, it's stop motion animation. You need to make the animation. So fortunately for us, Serum has a really, really great wavetable editor. And who's making fun of my file management? Nathaniel. I know where everything is. Okay, so if I take this into Serum's wavetable editor, if you never used it, you hit the little edit thing. And now you can see there's only one frame. So this is the most boring movie ever. That's why it sounds like crap. So fortunately, there are a lot of things that we can do. If you're really interested in this process, I have a whole workshop that you can watch on my YouTube about wavetables and making them in Serum. That's one of my favorite things to teach. But on the process, you can do all kinds of things, and this is designed for you to be importing your own very rough things and to smooth them out, to change the phase, to fade the edges. In this case, we have only one cell, so we actually kind of need to make a full table. The easiest way is to do a pulse width modulation from this table to all. So, and yes, we can do it in Vital. We're going to do it in Vital afterwards, because I'm all about multiple synths. But I'm going to do this. Boom. So what this has actually done is just created a little stop motion animation for me. And I'm going to just assign something just to the movement so that we can see that in the editor. So now it's moving, right? Because we made this little animation, and every frame you can see it shifts the line one over and back, which is making it look moving. And so again, it sounds like crap, but now it sounds less crappy. Okay, so Nathaniel brought up Vital, and Vital is a really amazing synth. It's actually kind of my favorite these days. The only reason that I didn't use it from the beginning was, like I said, you can't drag and drop pictures in there. But you should be able to do the same thing. Let's go back to that euthanasia thing. And and you can, obviously, when you hover over this in both Serum and Vital, you can choose a mode and just think like, is this just a straight wavetable? Is this a vocode type of thing? Do you need it to be smoothed out? There's no vocode. There's a single line. So I'm going to just drop it in like this. We're going to go to 3D, and we're going to go into the editor. So as you can see, it's similar. I will say this. I think it's a lot deeper in some ways than Serum. So I still go back to Serum, because even for me, I haven't done this in a while, to be totally transparent. Like, you can add all these cool modifiers, and you can stretch the wavetable out to be like a full thing by, it's basically like Premiere, where you make keyframes, and it then kind of, you perform the thing that you want. And like mess around with it, and then it will create animation between. So you don't actually need to make every single frame. You just need to make a movement. So yeah, like Photoshop, After Effects, any of that stuff. Anybody who's used keyframes, you can create it. So once you do something like this, you will create a 3D waveform as well. So let's see. Still not really super exciting, because I wanted to do more for it. But again, I think it's a little easier to get started. Vital is something I learned after I really got good with Serum. So I'm going to move it into Vital afterwards, but I still like to tweak it and do this in Serum. But again, if you don't have Serum, you can do this in Vital. So let's go back into here, and let's make sure that we arm the right channel. So we can also start to process it now that we have more than one cell. So I can remove the fundamental, which is a high pass filter, which makes it sound more trebly. I can fade the edges. Let's crossfade the edges, which kind of just makes it a little smoother. I can morph it, which is again like it's like Face App or something. It's just morphing everything together a little bit more. And so I'm basically TLDR, I'm just putting it through all these transformative processes to create something that's a little bit more moving and engaging. So I do like this old school keyframe look to it. So once I'm relatively happy with it, and for now this is good enough, I think the easiest thing I can make out of this is a pad, and the easiest way I can make this to start a little bit less thin is to increase the unison voices, right? So the number of voices playing at once can be spread out. So we need more than one, obviously. And this wobbling is happening because I put this LFO to move through the wavetable, right? So if we want the way it wobbles to change, or maybe we don't want it to wobble at all, we just want it to just go once, put it in envelope mode. I like a little wobble. Maybe let's make it like really slow, and let's do something super weird. So in the newer versions of Serum, they did this like envelope mode combined with loopback, which is cool. It lets you have a single movement followed by a looping movement. So all of these things I'm doing are creating movement and thickness, right? So we've got our first very, very basic. Again, there's nothing really on it. So first thing we can do to make it sound less and less boring is to change the envelope or the shape of the sound. So I could just use this envelope 1 as it's hardwired, right? Gives it a little more of a spike and a little bit of a longer release. Now, I think maybe before I go a little bit further, you should see this song I'm trying to cover. So he gave me this crazy MP3, and what I ended up doing was cutting it up and rearranging it to like the parts that I liked and how I liked them. And then I started trying to extract the MIDI and stuff, and it didn't really go too well. Like sometimes Ableton is really good at just right-clicking and extracting. Sometimes it does a horrible job. This is one of those days it did a horrible job. Luckily, I can do it by ear. But just to give you a feel of what we're looking at, I'm going to just play a little bit of this. Clipping so bad. That is not me. No, it's not my CPU. Oh, I know why. Is it going all digital? I don't know. It could be the black hole device. So I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think that this is actually a rip from the video game. So that's why it sounds like that. How does it sound when when I just play the synths. I hope that sounds okay, because that's really what we're going to do. Anyways, it's sort of like a, I don't know what genre I would call this, kind of happy hardcore. But what I've done already, and again, tell me if this is like, sounds horrible, but let's just mute this. I just replayed or extracted the key things so that I have something to play with. So essentially what I hear is we have a piano, we have some big pads, like saw wavy things, and then we have bass and drums. So I'm going to get into those later, and I'm just going to focus on making a couple of sounds. Like, it didn't even get like the... I wonder if my bit rate, I'm not really sure. Let me just check this out. So I'm glad y'all sound people are here, because sometimes this black hole stuff is a little bit funny. Oh, I'm using VB cable. What am I even talking about? 44.1? Yeah, it should be fine. So maybe I actually should install black hole on this computer. That's a lesson. Huh. So everything sounds a bit crushy. That's lame. Let me go back and see if I can check out my settings here. So weird. Okay, so I'm using VB cable to dual stream. And I don't know why it should be so bit crushy. I hate this part about Macs, is that you can't just like directly pull audio. You have to use something else. Okay, I'm going to try using maybe... because I have to put it out. How about I try this other driver? I'm going to try this. Just bear with me. We are going to try this. Okay, so I'm switching the device now, and then you need to tell me if see, that sounds a bit crushy to me. And then... so, okay, I just switched to a totally different driver called I Show You Audio Capture. I do not know if that is helping, so please let me know in the chat. And I've totally like lost... Okay, so yeah, it's not my buffer size per se. Now I'm using I Show You Audio Capture. So, okay, I hope that's better. I'm going to keep going until someone in the chat tells me otherwise. But I will install Black Hole later. These things, sometimes one of them works for a while, then it stops working. Yeah. Okay, so... what we're going to do is just keep working on... I think I want to make this a little bit more edgy. Let's kind of turn this into something. What I'm going to try and do... let me back up. What I'm going to try to do is recreate this song and make similar sounds palette-wise. And, you know, we're not going to, like, go into this. I'll probably do another stream working on this song some more. But I kind of... today has just been the Instagram test to see if it works. And I think it is. So... I kind of want to give it a little bit of a filter, because I like things that are filtered. And I often find that wavetables, they're just always very harsh. It's just the characteristic of having an angry line. Angry lines sound angry. So, of course, some of the easiest ways to deal with that would be to filter it. There are some interesting new filters that, not new, newer in the last year or so that I really like. Oh, right. Let me switch back. There we go. Okay. Sorry. There's so many. Thanks for sticking by. And glad that you are back, Tyler, the man of the hour. So nice to see you, Tyler. We've taken our first chain link. Big shouts out to Tyler. I'm going to go back just so he can see our little Cryptowave waveform. So this is where it's all starting. And I think actually what I'm going to do is save this, and I'm going to save it on the desktop so that I can just bring it into some other synths after I'm done, because Serum does get a little limiting sometimes. So let's play with some combs. I really love comb filters, and I really love Now, I don't want to make too exactly like the original because, you know, I love you, Tyler. I actually like this song, but I'm not a big fan of like the happy hardcore saw thing. I'd like to sort of soften it up and make it a bit more my style. So let's start messing around with some wave warping. So all of these are different modes that will warp. As you can see when I move this. So usually, again, this is a bit of a button mashing technique. I just try things and wait till they sound good, right? And you may also find when you make your own crypto wave that maybe part of the wavetable sounds really good and part of it is just totally ass. So, I mean, in something like Serum, you can actually go and cut the bad frames out. But sometimes I just like to make one, and then you just don't have to you don't have to move through the whole wavetable if you don't like the end. Okay, I like the mirror one. It's kind of giving me like higher harmonics as it moves. So let's do like a really long, subtle movement across that mirror. I'm going to just play around with a couple of filters. Another important point that actually my colleague Admiral Bumblebee has brought up is sometimes when you're making pads, the voicing of the chords is actually the most important thing. So I can make a patch and I can just play the crappiest chord in the world and it's never going to sound good because it's not a good balance of voicings, because that's old school EQing, right? Like back when they had orchestras, they were just like, we need more mids. All right, trombone players, sit closer to the front. So, you know, they basically just filled in with the octave and the note, the missing thing. That's how composers worked. And now we do EQs and sound design. So I'm just playing a very basic triad right now. So let's just give a quick reference of what we're doing, because I think I did some, oh yeah, so I got some harmony, but it was very wonky. Like, check this out. So if you use audio to MIDI Ableton, which is what I did harmony. It's a good way to fix it is to use the fold and just kind of look for something that isn't really in the scale, or like something that's a weird node, or just something that doesn't belong. And so right now this is just a stock sound, but we're gonna like put something on it that can become an ARP. But for now, since we didn't have great success getting the chords, I'm just gonna play. And there is this lead. So we're gonna design a lead to go with that too. But for now, let me just find a good. This is such a horrible sound. I really can't stand it. I'm sorry. So I just want to get. Let's just do some good old minor seventh. Everyone likes a minor seventh. So, oh, now we have the smart Alec orchestrator in the chat. Encyclopedia Baritonica. How's it going? Love you, man. Good to see you. So I'm just gonna. All right, now let's mute that horrible melody to MIDI instrument. So still a bit thin, bit basic. No fear, we have not got into the effects section yet. So I'm going to do a bit in the box and then we'll go out of the box. So I'm going to go into the multiband compressor, which turns it into sort of an OTT. And just check it out. Sometimes I use the single band mode. Sometimes I use the multi-band mode. It really just depends on what sounds good. So multi-band can just be an alternate way to alter the timbres of your sound without using necessarily EQ. With multi-band compression, you're actually compressing each of the different bands and then bringing them up or down in the mix. And this is kind of, so I can say like turn down the level of the compressed highs. And it's just a different approach to balancing out your sound. So in Serum, you can change the order of these effects. I highly suggest also messing with that when you're sound designing, because sometimes you might think it sounds better until it does. So something I like doing with reverb in sound design is enveloping it. So instead of having this constant reverb, this giant tail that takes up all the space, you just have like a neat little bump in your sound giving you that reverby sound. So to do that, I would be designing this and putting it to the mix and just putting it maybe in envelope mode so that it just happens like at the beginning of the sound and then it goes away and leaves us alone. And these are pretty quick. I forgot I was using this for that. So let me just remove that and just put another long one in here. And then you can also start messing with little bits of everything I already have. I really love that weird, wonky, almost like tape delay sound when you move the frequency of a comb and everything starts phasing. That's almost a cool vibrato effect. So it makes me think of like those long notes that you hold that are like, so let's do sort of an increasing vibrato. And yes, I sit here by myself sound designing, being like, and then making it happen. So let's do this and let's just move it a tiny bit towards the end. And maybe I don't need it to be legato. I was just being like super lazy. So we can like give them a little bit of breathing room between the notes. And that gives us room to have an envelope shape. And really the shape of the sound is what it all comes back to, right? Because it's the difference between making a spiky sound, a short sound, a long sweeping sound. Another way that you can sort of thicken out and make your sound a little less wavetable-y, because here's the thing, right? A lot of people, they swear by analog synths, right? They're just like, oh, nothing sounds like an analog synth. It's got these amazing filters. totally true and it just sounds better. But you can actually really dissect as to why it sounds better, and you can kind of fix some of those things. Like for instance, a lot of the original analog synths, they have 4 waveforms, right? They have sine, saw, triangle, square. And those are just they're thicker, nicer sounding waveforms than this random ass wavetable of like 6 months of a crypto stock going up and down. So I can use them to kind of help me, right? I can just go into something very analog. Like let's say this is one of my favorites. It's a sine wave, but it's not quite perfect. So when you move it, it just sort of stretches. It's a wobbly thing. So I can use FM synthesis, which is short form for those of you who don't know, just allowing one oscillator to modulate the other. And I could modulate this sine wave. So let's like solo it for a second. It's just a nice, clear, strong sine wave. So I could take frequency modulation from this, which I have to turn on. And this will actually modulate this with this. Or I could do it vice versa. But you can see that like when I use this as sort of my ghost, when I fingerprint its sonic spectrum onto the other one, you get that fullness of the sound, but with the movement of that. So sometimes I do kind of cheat and I sort of say, all right, this is a little hollow as it goes. Let's just print it onto a more solid. And we could just have a very basic long movement on this. 1 bar. And just say, go like this. And there's always going to be with FM, there's always going to be a point that sounds like shit, right? So don't use that point. I'm going to stop it before it goes. So already, just by mostly using the envelope and slower modulations, we are creating a lot of variation over the duration of that pad. And that already is just going to make it less annoying than just, you know. Nothing here is just a solid block of sound. And we've only just put... So... what else can we put on here? Well, we've got the hyper dimension if we don't have enough. Give it a little more thickness. And I often find wavetables, you can go wrong with a little bit of dimension. A little bit is the key word, light hand. If you do too many phasey effects, you're going to get hollow, thin sound again, and that's going to bring us back to square one. So we use these carefully. We can create movement if we like. Like maybe we can use this same thing and just have a little bit. And I kind of just mess around and see if maybe a bit of distortion could help. A little bit of soft clipping. And I do think the sound needs to be a bit more percussive because it is sort of a very high energy song. So let's... Cool. All right, so let's just... All right, and now, in the sanctity away from this melody to MIDI piece of garbage instrument, shouts out to whoever thought that this was a nice sound. And we're going to put this in Vital, and now we are actually just going to start again. Or actually, Why don't we, yeah, all right. Start again. Let's see how we're doing. Go to the right channel, Alicia. All right, back to our eye-popping, nasty thing. Let's do some fun stuff to this. So we can do a wave window. So usually the thing to do is to just put one at the beginning, one at the end. Start by making something happen. And then you at least have this evolving series of points. And you can make a couple of other. And this and frequency filter. So this is just, now we've done a little something. Now on Vital, if you've only used Serum and you get Vital, a lot of people, they don't figure out that this wavetable position is this unlabeled fader. It's a mystery, but here you can move between the frames, and I really like Vital because not only is it free, not only is it have a nice interface and everything, and it's easy to use and it's drag and drop, but it just has its own kind of cool effects. For instance, it's got this really cool chorus, which is you can use kind of like a reverb or a delay. It's already kind of springy and weird, but check this out. You can just drag it to freeze, and that basically just creates a time-based effect that is frozen in place. Now it's kind of the weirdest delay ever. We're going to get this under control, and I'm going to try compressing it actually after this, and then we'll see if it works or not. Very Dracula circa 1950 right now. I'm not making a pad though. Stop making pads. You make too many pads. It's just to make sure that let's just put it in mono. Let's make it glide. So another thing is you can actually do weird stuff like there's this sampler in Vital, and you could also just put this weird chain link thing inside of that. So who knows? Let's see. It's a nice, irritating sort of like death apocalypse system failure buzz. So right now I'm just going to tune it so that I don't know why it decided that it was. Let's move it way up. Actually, I was going to pitch this up MIDI up, but let's actually go. So pretty much as soon as you take a sine wave-ish sort of sound and you put a glide on it, you're in like gin and juice territory. So we're going to make this again a little bit more interesting. So first of all, we're going to take the envelope out of this Lego block shape. Maybe. And give it some, we're actually going to give it unison voices, even though we only have one voice at a time. So one voice means I can only play one note at a time, but I can have a bunch of different copies of that note playing. Now, here's another cool thing. So my favorite synth, which we have not used yet and has some limitations, is called Gladiator, and it uses this synthesis called spectral morphing. So Matt Teitel, who made Vital, he also was a big fan of this synth, and he put some spectral morphing knobs in here. So check this out. And then you change views between 2D, 3D, and spectral. So you can really like you can really see what is going on with the harmonics. And this definitely, I don't want to make it too detuned, but I wanted to give it a little bit more. And I like this view to just give you a visual because now it is kind of replacing a piano, so maybe it should be a little sharper. I could have it always glide, or I could just have it only glide when we overlap. Or not glide. And actually, you know what? I'm kind of over the gliding. Like 1990s was a long time ago now, right? So, the fact that I remember it. So, we can do the same thing we can do in Serum, which is modulate another oscillator, right? We can... We can also warp. Look at that. Let's go back to 3D for some, whoa, quantized formant. Give it that wah wah. I kind of like these weird little artifacts that are popping up when I sort of twist the knobs where it's getting a little bit plucky, almost like a stalactite. Because that's totally a thing I hear all the time. So yeah, cool. I'm just kind of getting the shape. I like that little bit of pluckiness. And now, yeah, vibrato would be cool. But another really cool thing about Vital, and I believe it's this way by default. It's been so long since I installed it, I don't remember. But over in the Advanced tab, I believe by default it displays semitones. Now this is very unusual because most measurements of things in synths are hertz, right? So if I put a filter, and you see this is a very typical thing, right? And let's go ahead and send both of these. So that's a typical filter, right? I'm just moving it by values of hertz. However, in Vital, if I bring this to semitones, I can actually modulate a filter at an octave, which is like, say, 1 octave above. So instead of like, if I enter value here, I can say 5, 12, 1 octave above the root note, right? And I can key track it. So this means one of the party tricks that I actually show people when they first use this synth is that you can put white noise in here with no pitch at all. And then you can put a comb filter and you can, yeah, maybe it is hertz. It would be weird, right? Because people would just be like, what is this? I don't understand. So a comb filter, right? It's called a comb filter because it looks like a comb. It looks like a comb because it inserts spikes at specific intervals. So if you have this comb set at a specific interval and then you have it key tracking, so it's an octave above, right? And then it's key tracking. That means it will move up and in key. So basically, TLDR, you can control things by measures in semitones, which enable you to do harmonic filtering. So look at that. I just created an octave that moves. So without, now. So you literally can just put straight up noise in there. And that's why I love. It looks like it's following legato to me, Darren. Look at that slide. Actually, that's never been a question I thought of, and thank you for making me look at that because right? And so if I wanted it to have a lower octave, I could just put it at -12. I don't like that because we don't really need more mid-range in our life. Most people don't. So if I wanted to thicken my sound, I could add this musical comb filter. Oh, I love that. Love it. Okay, but I think I actually liked it. I could see, what about 0? That's actually kind of nice, and I love the way it's trailing off with that weird. So you can see that by putting the compressor after the chorus, I am compressing the chorus, which I want, because when I'm sound designing, like I'm trying to create things that are not there, right? I'm trying to create harmonics, I'm trying to create tails. Now, of course, when you're doing wavetables especially, there's often a lot of garbage, so I usually use a low-end filter, because almost always. There's also some pretty strong resonance in the middle range, so I'm just going to give that a preemptive cut. And if I were making this as a preset, I would really have to fix this inside the box, because no one's going to have all your plug-in chains. So, cool. So now that we've kind of done a little bit inside the box work with the Cryptowaves, let's go a little bit outside. So I'm going to play with, first of all, distortion. When I'm sound designing, or I think when most people are sound designing, I like to think about all the basics, right? Before you get all fancy and you start doing aux modulations and doing 20 different things, just think about like compression, EQ, reverb and delay, distortion, basic fundamentals, right? And what do you need to do? Do you need to make it longer? Maybe instead of just making the sound longer, you use reverb and delay strategically. Do you need to make it louder? Maybe instead of compression, you move the envelope so that there's more sound sustaining, which will make somebody feel like it's louder. So there are a lot of things you need to do, and there are a lot of ways to do them that are not always the obvious way. So sometimes if I'm stuck or I feel like I'm doing the same thing, I try to find the non-obvious way to do something. So for instance, I wanted to thicken the sound, so we did a musical comb filter, accentuating the root note, right? Because we left it at 0. So that's just another way to do something rather than EQing it. So I'm going to go outside the box, and just because I don't trust people or anything, I'm going to put another EQ on here because I believe there's still some low end hiding in there. Now, another good thing for controlling wayward wavetables, Darren in the chat mentioned Soothe, which is an automatic EQ that adjusts to take away resonance. So if you are lucky enough to have this plugin, I finally caved in and got it. It's really expensive for what it is. I wish I used it more than I do. I probably should use it more than I do, but it's kind of cool because you can just put it on something and you just tell it which parts you want it to pay more attention to. And it just, you can see it will pull down the resonance by the amount that you... I will say this, I love shortcuts as much as anyone, but I would say that sometimes I don't like to just leave it to an automated EQ. If it's vocals, absolutely. If it's a synth, I tend to sort of use something more like TDR Nova. And so this is a paid version of it, but it is a free plugin. It has almost all the same stuff, and it's a dynamic EQ. And so it allows me, I can sort of see that this is roughly the range that is annoying. So just like a compressor, I set a threshold, I set a ratio, change the focus and whatever. And then when it exceeds the threshold, it will pull in and control that EQ. And this is really good for anything that changes pitch, because when you have higher notes, you have less low frequency in that note because it's a higher note, right? So you can see when I play these problem notes, it's really pulling them down. And when I play the higher notes that don't have that annoying frequency, like maybe this is a second annoying frequency, so we could go and just pull that in. Now, I really like this. Again, this isn't approach B. Approach A would be to just compress the shit out of it, right? But that can flatten out the timbres of a sound. It's kind of like pressing your face against a window. Like, you're not going to look that great, right? So I like EQ, especially dynamic EQ, because it actually is an expander in that it gives back dynamic range. And Lord knows electronic music needs more dynamic range these days, right? And pop music too. Anything, everything is overcompressed in a sausage party. So by doing this, I do not need to compress it. I'm just gently controlling things that exceed. And now I have headroom and dynamic range. So and again, this is still very chip tune because we are not in the fancy post-processing, but hopefully you're just learning a little bit about how things work. And now I think what I was saying about voicing also applies here. I could add some more lower notes in this chord because it's quite a high sort of thing. So we can try that first, and we can also and maybe take some of these like super high notes. So in Ableton, if for those of you who don't use shortcuts, shift up and down will move things up and down an octave. And sometimes this can just help when you don't have the right voicing, but you're happy with the notes. Boom, boom, boom. And this needs a lot more softening and filtering still. So I'm going to go back in here. Oh yeah, because we put a comb filter on a wavetable. So we basically just ripped our ears apart with a saw blade. That's very nice. Sorry. So, oops. There we go. So I just want to give it a little bit of soft movement. Let's just give it like something like this and move the cutoff. Yeah, and so the thing with wavetable synthesis, like anything, sometimes you need to work on it little bits to balance out the other elements. So I am not afraid of it. Like if I find the sound is a little bit tiring still, but I want to work on something else, just to throw a filter on it temporarily so that it's still kind of there, but it's not bugging me. So I'm going to... And I think it would be nice if we made a bass. So I'm going to just play a little bit more with effects, and then we'll make like a sub. Although I have a really gnarly sub that I really like from Bitcoin that I might want to use. But I don't know if that would be cheating. I think the whole song could be made out of CHAINLINK. It depends on what a relentless overlord Tyler is. We'll see how strict he wants me to be. He's allowed to make the rules. So let's put... distortion. So distortion is probably like if I had to save one effect and everything was going overboard. Actually, that's not true. I'd probably choose EQ. But after EQ, I would choose distortion because I really like creating harmonics. And we're going to use this obnoxiously... Tyler, I'm totally just kidding. I know you're not. I'm going to use this very hypnotic, massively GPU heavy, fancy distortion just to give it a little bit more character on this lead. Because yes, I put a filter on it and I cut off some of the highs because I didn't like them, and now I'm going to add them back. So Again, let me just destroy something for people who are like, I don't use presets. So I used to live in San Francisco with a bunch of snobs who all they did was just use analog synths. I love them. They're great people. But if you didn't like raise the goats that were skinned to make the drums that were sampled for the original drum machine, like you weren't a real producer. And so let me say this, time is not always your friend. Sometimes you only have a little bit of time to make a tune, and sometimes you're also not inspired. So going through all of these can really, really help just spark an idea, and then you can tweak it later. And if you feel the need to be, I'm so original, I make everything from scratch, you can then go back and make one from scratch. But also, you know, sometimes if I go, okay, I kind of want this to sound a little bit more like guitar and keys, maybe I can start with some of these presets from here. Make it sound more like a guitar or a piano. What's up, Reverse Media? And I like this dark and dangerous. So let's go behind the hood. It's got this fancy like one knob, like ooh. X-Flat pad. And it's got even fancier sort of little things where you can just like put distortion on only one part of this. So ooh, and it's giving me some really cool tails. So I think now this pad needs a little bit more help. I'm going to pull out this really cool thing called Rift. Because, yeah, sometimes you just can't do everything with the plugins that come inside of the synth because there's just so many cool plugins. So Minimal Audio is the company. And I actually am acquainted with the founder, and this is a bipolar distortion. Gets really mad at you and screams for no reason. Just kidding. Bipolar distortion. It's a lot to wrap your head around, but think about this. The speaker pushes out and the speaker pushes in to make the sound wave, right? So you can put a different distortion on the speaker going out than from the speaker going in. Super, super wild. So this is really, really insane, and I have not also, let me just be totally transparent, everybody. I'm just coming back to doing this. I'm just coming back to producing music at all because for the last year, my soul was totally stolen by people who were taking way too much of my time. And this has changed. So just like thermal, it has the easy mode and it has the hard mode. And you can, basically, these are distortion units on steroids because back in the day, you just had these like guitar amp emulators and these knobs of like level of thing and maybe an EQ. And now you have all kinds of weird modulators and movement built in. So what is going on here? It's its own ecosystem. Yeah, bipolar distortion is a real thing. Look at this, Kevin. So we have the positive shape and then we have the negative shape. And actually, we're on the wrong channel, so there we go. Whoa. I didn't even do anything. My track is like done. What even is this? It's like arpeggiating, it's distorting, it's adding lo-fi. Like, look at this, I'll turn it off. Oh my gosh. We've just taken it from chiptune. It's like panning everywhere. Whoa. And you know, then you tweak things, but happy accidents. Big shouts out, Phaserville. Thanks for joining me in the chat. And everyone, happy accidents are so everything because This is what I tell my students. You have to learn how to do everything. You have to know what every knob does. You know, I can sit here and I can tell you what this is doing and why and how these are connected. However, so many times it's just button mash, button mash. You just go around and you wait till you find something nice. And I actually like this a lot. So I think that that's like kind of all I needed. Now, one thing, you will probably need to EQ at some point after the distortion, because when you distort, you are creating harmonics. So you will almost always create something you didn't always want. So I'm going to go in and just for fun, I'm going to put a Pro Q on it. And I got to say, I resisted the Pro Q for many years because it's expensive and I didn't buy it until I got an educational discount. But it is worth it because it's like every kind of EQ in one. So just like I was showing you in TDR Nova, if I wanted, like if we want to just control this part, I can just make this dynamic and make the rest of the EQ normal. And it's looking to me like we got this really nice fuzz, but we might want to control it a little. We also have some extra mid-range, so I'm going to control that a little too. And then I'm just going to do a regular low cut. And why does that sound so much better than it did before? I mean, other than the fact that it's just a dope plugin, like let me just dissect that for anybody who's just starting. So what makes sounds annoying, right? And I just talked about this before when we were talking about the shape of a sound, is having an envelope that looks like this, of square. And it's just like how me talking is hopefully not that annoying, but if I just sit here going, it gets pretty annoying pretty quick. So changing the shape of the sound, like the amplitude, not making it constant, changing where it is in the space, so it's panning back and forth, changing the timbres with all the weird reverbs and distortions that are being put in. All these things are making this sound move around and change, so it's not exhausting your ear, right? So that is why this is how we can make things better. So let me just see. I'm going to make a bass. And yeah, and this is my super favorite synth. I'm so happy to be reunited with it again. Let me find, I made my own little section somewhere. Here. Risha. Okay, where is this murderous 808? I think it's this. I made so many 808s. Seam, tenacious subplug, narrow blip. Yeah, I think it is this. But no, but that's just from sorry, I lied. That's just from a sine wave. I know there's a fantastic 808 from Bitcoin somewhere, but I don't know where it is. Let's see. These are just, we can just bask in the beauty of what is vital. So here's some stuff I made from Dogecoin. Everybody liked the Dogecoin sounds because they're very plucky and sparkly. And it is because Doge is a meme coin and it pumps. So it goes from the nothing to broom, and then it goes down again. And that actually sounds plucky. I'd like to redo it with that new method of making it 2D. So that's pretty sweet. But why not? Let's see if we can make a bass out of this link, since that is the theme. And the Overlord Tyler is watching. Please forgive me. Okay, so whoops, I forgot to go back. Okay, let's drag this in. Tyler, since you're in chat, what is the video game that this is from? So yeah, everything, like all the Cryptowaves sound like farts when you play them loud down. They go from being like static to farts. But we're gonna find a point that is. We need to make this move. Let's find something. How about the Slew Limiter? Sounds fun. Why not? It kind of just does some interesting things to the shape of the waveform. Like filtering, already sounding a little bit less annoying. I'm so happy, Phaserville, that you're enjoying this, because now that I'm not teaching sound design full time, I can teach it to all of you. So it is a fair trade, I think, if you're down for it. So I'm just putting filters because the name of the game is less annoying, and that's usually something that you would want to go to a filter for. So just to give me a little variety, however ugly that variety is. Sometimes just having a little nasty edge of something, like this part is farty, right? It's not great, but that's a good sort of foundational base. So we could maybe just have it like curl up at the edge. So just, oh, it's cool. It kind of has like a little bend, right? Let's just, so that's another way of doing a pitch bend, is to just make a really weird wavetable and bend the end of it in. And just for those of you who are not reading the chat, this game originally that we're covering is called Everhood, requested by Tyler to make a track out of CHAINLINK, the amazing decentralized Oracle technology. Hopefully it starts to go back up, because I would like to make some CHAINLINK waveforms that are spiky like the Doge. We gotta pump, friends. Now, the secret with good bass, a few things. First of all, cleaning it up, because it's very easy to just have a lot of mud, and the mud zone is like here. Bass guitars often have a lot of this zone, which is basically like, I'm going to put this back in hertz because we actually need it in hertz right now. So anywhere like basically from 250, 300 all the way up to 8, there's kind of various unpleasant shades of mud. So a good way to get a better, cleaner sub is to start going through and scooping out the mids. So this is something like, this EQ is a little bit limiting. It's only a 1-band EQ. So I would just say, like, this is for big moves. This is just for going, all right, let's just take that. You can see I can just quickly kind of make something sound subbier. And this is a common mistake I see all the time in my classes. People want more bass, so they go like this. I have the most terrifying screenshot of a student's EQ where they basically just pushed everything up, and it was like, maybe you should have turned the volume up and cut out a bunch of other things. So the rule is, if you want more bass, cut the mids and cut the treble. Don't boost the bass. Boosting is kind of one of those things you do after, right? It's better to cut out the things that are in the way than try to fluff up. Nobody likes a fluffer. Okay, so we can. No, and I mean, boosting is totally fine in the context of sound design, but I just mean in general, I see people really doing these huge boosts and not like narrowing the cue enough, which is basically you're going to boost stuff you don't want no matter what. So I could kind of just be lazy and reduce this to just a sub, like put a really dirty filter, kind of give it some resonance. And obviously we've got this Lego block envelope, so we need to do something about that. And you see right now I am doing a crazy boost because I'm trying to make a resonant point. I was more talking about, I should have clarified, like corrective EQing, not so much sound design. So now that I've got it kind of like a sub, I can do a couple things here. I can go ahead and cheat and put in like a nice kind of maybe put a square like underneath it. I could even FM from oscillator 1 to give it that same. Cool. All right, and let's put a compressor after this stuff. And I'm gonna actually, well, why is that release so long? So ringy. I guess my resonance is just a little. You have to be careful because that can last forever. And as Barrett says, people lack precision. So another tip about good bass, especially subs, is like you don't want it to be too tuned. When I first started making electronic music, I made all these beautiful piano chords and then like, you know, put these super perfectly tuned basses on them, and then they just sounded really garbagey. And it's because some dissonance is beautiful, but you have to know how to do it. And so I like to do multiband on all my basses, but I like to do it in an Ableton rack. So we're going to go outside of it for that. Let me just see if there's anything else I want to put from here. And here's the thing, right? If I do a distortion in here, I'm doing it on the entire sound, which is not usually ideal. I usually like to do distortion strategically only on the mids or the highs because distortion on the sub often leads to bigger problems. So if I'm doing distortion within this, it probably means I'm layering a sub or maybe even bypassing it. So that's one option I could do here. I could put this distortion, go crazy, and because this is going to act as my sub, I could just say direct out, and now it's not being affected. And then in order to sort of keep it under control, I can even cut off the lows, because now we're going to have two separate layers. We're going to have sort of upper octave. And then we're going to have the square, which is not having the sub compromise. So this, I actually like this if I want to have any character to my bass, if I'm not just making a sub, because then I can put things that you would never put on subs, like reverbs and phasers, and I still low cut it anyways because I just really don't want to. And obviously I don't want to put a reverb on this sub anyways. There's not much upper information, but just decoupling the actual sub source from all the effects means that you have more control. So I actually think that I would prefer to put this into the effects, to not use this distortion, and to go into my little Ableton thing. So I have this thing that's already saved because I do it all the time. It's basically just a little rack. It has 3 parallel chains, and it is splitting. It's basically 3 copies of the same signal, only the lows, only the mids, only the highs. And then there's a compressor with kind of aggressive sidechain settings already built in, and I just have to tell it where to go. So we don't really need the compressor right now, but I'm using this plugin called Gaffle, and it's a plugin from Clevegrand. Really, really love them. They make fantastic stuff that's really cheap. And all it does is it's a linked band separator. And that's really important because if I put 3 EQs on this and then I decide I want to change what frequency that EQ cuts off, I have to change the one after it, right? Because I have to move them all. But with this, let's say I want to move this middle band to, or low band, whatever, to 2 something. Now all of them are going to be in the same. So they're all linked. And yeah, so I think I did it backwards. Whoops. There we go. And this, yeah, I totally screwed it up. Let me just fix it because I went and mixed up all my gaffles. Right, so now, why is the mid? All right, sorry, I've just bunged it up somehow. I'm gonna just put it in again because I know it's right. Cool. All right. So this allows me to put a compressor on just the sub, which is already there. And then I have this separate midband and I can start putting like some wild, fun distortions on it. So I think I want like a simpler one. It's going to go like unfiltered audio, dent 2. So it can do quite destructive things, as you can hear. Some of them are more noticeable than others. But the point is it's only doing this to the band between 82 hertz and 1K, so it's not touching the lower sub. I could say, let's move it up a bit. So some of them are super weird because this one is very interesting. You can do all kinds of different algorithms. And actually, I'm not feeling this one today. I want to use Saturn. So my distortion collection is probably my secret weapon toolbox. And Darren in the chat is asking, and the answer to this question is yes. He says, does Gaffle cause less phase crossover issues than using multiband dynamics or other EQs? 100%. That's always a thing, right? Phase issues and crossover. So Gaffle, as far as I know, it's one of the cleanest ones I've heard. So either way, I mean, the interesting thing about something like, say, Saturn is that it's also a multiband plugin. So you can kind of multiband inside your multiband. So you could have like, it's something where you already know the mid-range is being cut, and now you can experiment with like multiple bands inside of this mid-range. I like Saturn because it lets you have all these different algorithms. So I could like go in and just be like, yeah. And I can adjust the tone within each band. So basically, this is the process of making Cryptowaves. I'm really happy to get this started. I've been wanting to finish this for Tyler for so long, and I was just working 60 hours a week, and it was not good, and I did not get enough time to make music, so I'm super happy to be back here. Please, if you're tuning in for this, check out the other project that we're starting, ILBC. It's the International Live Beat Challenge, and it's something that I'm doing that I'd like to share with you before I go. So basically, let me go back into my window and let's check out ilbc.tv. So this is going to be starting soon. It is a live electronic performance competition. So basically, people are going to apply to compete in challenges to do the best freestyle and challenge routines. We're going to have special guest artists and judges and mentors from all genres and all occupations within music. It's going to be really good. So we've already started doing some soft launch stuff, and we basically have interviewed people about their setups. We interviewed the founder of Controlla XYZ about his new augmented reality MIDI controller. You can find out more on our website, and we will be updating the streaming calendar, and this is all just happening again. So part of the reason I've been streaming is also obviously because I want to. I'm happy to be here with you, but also to really test out the technologies and all the different things that we're using. So it is 3 a.m. here in Spain. So I will be back with more Cryptowave stream. I think I'm going to work on this a little bit more and refine some sounds and then just keep going. And obviously, I'd love to develop more. You know, I wasn't super prepared with as much as I wanted to say about CHAINLINK, but Suffice it to say, it is a really amazing protocol that if you use DeFi, you are using contracts that use it all the time. Any type of contract that you are using that needs to check the real world for something is using a decentralized Oracle technology, and CHAINLINK is, as far as I can see, a pretty good one. So look up CHAINLINK. Hopefully the stock will start to go up and we can make a new crypto wave. And please check out my NFTs. So again, this one is on Foundation. And you know what I'm going to do before I go is I think I'm just going to play the video because it's out. But, well, you can go watch it on Rolling Stone. You don't need me to restream it, actually. But it's a really cool video. I'll just play you a little bit of it from here. Essentially, it's all animated in Unreal Engine, and I wore a motion capture suit. So super fun video. And so all of the stuff that you see in the video is actually me in a suit and my movements. Maybe it'll just be easier. Let me just screw the internet. Let's just go like this. So yeah, basically it's about a space crypto universe, planet Bitcoin. And yeah, that is me. So and all those sounds you're hearing are crypto waves made from Bitcoin, Ethereum, Uniswap, and Doge. So anyways, if you want to watch more, you can watch in the Rolling Stone premiere, which is actually just linking to my YouTube. So either way, hopefully, I don't even know how this Instagram thing is gone. If anyone is still watching there, I hope you're not having a miserable time with your tiny little screen and all my little fonts and stuff. But I will be back streaming some more, working on music, facilitating live performance tutorials and competitions. Please, just if you're watching on Instagram, give my Twitch a subscribe, il_ESHA. And just before I go, do I have any news? It's been so freaking long, but let me just go over a bit of what happened this year. I released the Cryptowaves project was the main thing I was able to do this year. I also did a lot of really, really great collabs, and some of it had been sort of in the vault for a while. So I released some stuff with Frost. I formed a group with Matt Black from Cold Cut called The Group, and we put out a single. And I did an ambient release on Ninja Tune, which came out pretty recently as part of a really, really cool compilation that is actually for a mental health charity. So let me see if I can pull that up and show you that. But it's cool. It's like the first time I've ever been on Pitchfork in like a tiny font, you know. But it's like, oh my gosh, down there. So there's some really cool stuff from Suzanne Ciani, Caitlin Aurelia Smith, who's one of my absolute favorites. I really love her work. Sigur Rós, of course, and lots of other stuff. So anyone who actually buys this, 50% of the profits go to CALM, which is the Campaign Against Living Miserably, and Black Minds Matter and Mine. So all mental health charities. It's a really, really cool thing. And it's the first time I've been releasing ambient stuff. I am also playing. I have not played much. I mean, it is COVID. I don't think anyone is playing too much, but I am going to be back in the US. So if anybody is in Denver, I will be just throwing down a little bit of a DJ set in a couple weeks on the 19th, as well as doing some more streams, doing some more teaching with Marie, one of my partners in crime. She's awesome. So basically stay subscribed and all that. And I will keep doing weird sound design sessions and weird competitions as much as I can. So thank you so much for tuning in, everybody, and have an amazing